Howdy, folks. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your host, The Mighty Bjorn, and today for you, got a bit of a Dungeons and Dragons video. Now, this is going to be one of those subjects that I'm going to dive into. Just be forewarned, you may not like everything I have to say. And that's because, once again, Hasbro is catching more flack. Now, I want to be upfront. I am not going to sit here and defend Hasbro. So just watch the video and hopefully you'll catch an understanding. But yeah, it seems like Hasbro's catched more flack. Seems like every time they do something anymore, they're catching flack, which some of it, yeah, I would say is well earned. Some of it, not so much. And in this case, I want to say not so much. And that's because there's been a lot of controversy that's come up about the pre order bundle stuff for the I don't know if you want to call it a new edition of Dungeons Dragons. They say it's going to be compatible with fifth edition, but there's a lot of changes they're making, especially to the player's handbook. So I really don't understand how it's going to be compatible. That's neither here nor there. The fact is there's new books coming out, the three core rule books, and here's actually some information about the bundles itself, so that way everybody can kind of see what I'm talking about here, or going to be discussing. But the big issue is everybody is kind of wagging their fingers at Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro right now, and basically saying Hasbro is being greedy as per normal. Now, I'm going to say that I actually do kind of have an issue with this statement here because let's be honest, no one's pointing their finger at the gaming industry who has been doing the same shit for over a decade now. Now, of course, maybe people are pointing their finger at Hasbro, but Hasbro fucking deserves it. And right here is actually a pre-order bonus for Space, the upcoming Space Marine game that's getting released soon, which I'm still on the fence if I'm actually going to pre-order it or not. But there's actually more to the pre-order information for Space Marine than what's shown here. So the fact is, the video game industry has actually done this shit for a long time. And very rarely anymore, I hear someone pointing their finger, or an in mass group of people pointing their finger saying, no, bad. Unless it's, like I said, Ubisoft, because fuck Ubisoft. But the other thing, too, is I don't see anybody pointing their fingers at Kickstarters. Kickstarter programs for TTRPGs, video games, etc., has been doing the same stuff for years, let alone also Patreon, and no one points their fingers at those projects. I'm not saying that those projects deserve that. I'm just saying that, hey, if we're going to be pointing fingers for doing pre order bundles and say that this is controversial and this is greedy, shouldn't we kind of set the standard that if one does it, everybody does it, instead of being very selective of who does it? So realistically, is Hasbro to blame? Well, that's a really tough one because, like I said a bit ago, the gaming industry has been doing it for a long time now. And there's also been recent talks and discussions and announcements of basically Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast saying that Dungeons and Dragons is underutilized when it comes to, or under monetized when it comes to different things. And I kind of sit there and said, yeah, sort of, because the truth of the matter is more than likely, I'm not going to say this is going to be the case for everyone, but a lot of players over the years, even though I'm still a player, I haven't bought a new book from Wizards of the Coast in probably 20 years, give or take a few years. And a lot of the books I buy now, I'm buying secondhand off eBay because that's really the only way I can get new D&D books anymore for 3.5 edition. But the truth of the matter is the cat's out of the bag. It's been out of the bag for a long time. And realistically, who's to blame? Well, us, the consumers. we've kind of allowed these practices to happen. We've allowed these practices to grow. They continue to grow. And essentially now with the younger generation of gamers, video gamers, tabletop gamers, etc., it's going to become more of a constant. And actually, companies are going to end up making more money as time goes on doing this because basically, as the younger generation now is going to be more accustomed to it. So realistically, it's us to blame, and we need to take a look in the mirror and blame ourselves for these kind of practices. And it's an unfortunate thing that it's kind of happened that way. And like I said a bit ago, I am not trying to defend Hasbro for what they're doing. But realistically, guess what? If companies wasn't making money off of doing this kind of stuff, they wouldn't do it. They would have stopped doing it years ago, over a decade ago, when video game companies started doing it. And basically, Hasbro at this point has looked at what kind of money video game companies is making by doing these kind of practices, and they're pretty much now they're drooling at the bit going, we want some of that sweet money too. Either ways, at the end of the day, it's up to you if you're going to partake in these kind of practices, if you're going to pre-order these bundles or not. Now, for me, realistically, will I partake in these practices? Will I partake in the new edition of Dungeons and Dragons? Well, no. I'm honestly perfectly happy, fine, the whole 9 yards with my 3.5 edition books, and I personally would rather have books over digital anyway, especially when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons. So I'm not really going anywhere from what I play now in relation to Dungeons and Dragons or any other TTRPG for what it matters. And I'm going to continue to play and make content for Dungeons and Dragons. But to be honest, I'm not saying, how do I want to put this? I'm saying I'm part of the blame too, because I have pre-ordered stuff in the past to get extra bonuses and whatnot. And usually it comes down to if I feel the gaming developer deserves it or not. And I've also partaken in Kickstarters in the whole 9 yards. So realistically, I'm just as much to blame as anyone else is on this subject. But realistically, like I said, the cat's out of the bag. Hasbro wants to get in on that dosh. It's a shitty business practice, but I get it. Anyway, folks, I'm going to wrap up today's video at that. I want to kind of keep it short, sweet, to the point, and kind of get my thoughts out there about the whole controversy related to the pre-order bundles for the new Dungeons and Dragons that's coming out this year. Anyway, folks, hopefully you all enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for tuning in, and have yourself a wonderful day.